Welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show, hosted by John Prue, a veteran MWR professional with nearly 4 decades of experience. This is where we spotlight the leaders, innovators, and recreation professionals dedicated to improving the quality of life for our military members and their families. In this episode, we're joined by Steven Gallagher, Superintendent of Recreation for the Town of Florence, Arizona, and a former MWR professional with more than 2 decades of military recreation experience. Steven shares his journey from military recreation to public parks and recreation, the leadership lessons that shaped his career, and how the skills of MWR professionals can make an impact far beyond the military community. This is On the Frontline, powered by the DPRS Media Network. Let's dive in.
All right, it is 13:30 on Tuesday, 21 July 2026, and you are on the front line. My name is John Prue, as the host of this weekly podcast focused on armed forces or military recreation. We talk to professionals in the industry who are in some way or have made a difference in the quality of life for our military and their families. For all of you out there, you might be a morale, welfare, or recreation or MWR professional who directly supports quality of life for our military and families each and every day. And hey, we thank you for that. Maybe you are or have been in the military and a user of MWR programs and services at some point, and we thank you for your service. Perhaps you're from a business or organization which directly supports or wants to support our armed forces recreation professionals around the globe. You just might be a public parks and recreation professional curious about that thing called military recreation and what it's all about. Or perhaps you don't fit into any of those categories and you just tuned in. Either way, welcome. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. Another great weekend in July. I love July. July is my favorite month. It's my birthday month, but also just a great month. Warm weather. I live in the Midwest, so I enjoy the summer. Matter of fact, I wonder why I live in the Midwest anymore, because I would love 12 months of summer, but we don't get it here. So take what I can get, right? And remember, it is Park and Recreation Month as well. So we still have another 2 weeks to celebrate kind of what we're all in the profession about. So a chance to really celebrate us and the good works that we do for communities. All right, World Cup wrapped up last weekend. Still super impressed. Hey, USA went out a while ago, but Spain winning the 2026 World Cup with extra time over Argentina, 1-0. Wow, what a game. What a great month and a half we've had watching this World Cup. And what a boom for the United States. I saw some stats the other day. Besides the fact that USA Soccer did well, they got to the round of 16. We would have liked to have seen them go a little farther, but I was looking at these stats and it was super incredible. There was 11 host cities across the United States. There was another 5 in Mexico and some other places, but 11 host cities in the United States, 1.25 million international visitors that came to our country over the last month and a half. They represented in most cases, or on average, probably about 40 to 45% of the stadium crowds, probably a lot more for that final. But truly awesome. And then what blew me away was the estimated economic impact was $20 billion for our country. Now, I love my American football, my Green Bay Packers, but I honestly love watching many of these games and the excitement around them. It really, truly was pretty cool. I hope it's not another 30 some years before we host them again. But I thought it was pretty cool and certainly good for our country, for sure. Okay, today's guest is Steve Gallagher. He's the superintendent of recreation for the city of Florence, Arizona. He's also a former MWR professional who I had a chance to work with for many years at Naval Station Great Lakes. I'm really excited to catch up with Steve today, and I know you will all enjoy the conversation as well. As you know, we are part of an amazing media team called Daily Parks and Recreation Show, or DPRS. DPRS media exists to honor the parks and recreation industry, reflecting on the stories, highlighting the careers, and celebrating the real pros who are doing the essential work in our communities, and that includes our military communities. Want to give a shout out to our producer today, Jovi, as always, doing great things, trying to keep us in check and make us look good. So, in advance, Jovi, thank you for what you do. I also want to thank our founder of DPRS Media, Craig LeBlanc, for allowing us the opportunity to host this weekly podcast focused solely on military recreation and the great work being done out there. Okay, going to talk about it in a little bit, but our episodes are loaded up on YouTube channel, DPRS Media or Daily Parks and Rec Show. You can check it out there. On the Frontline has its own playlist. We've got a majority of our episodes up there, and we also have audio files now on Spotify. So another great way to archive our getting close to 30 episodes here, archiving our episodes, and for Spotify, another way to consume your podcast very easily. So that's great. Today's show sponsor is Outdoor Link. If you want to turn on an entire city on and off with a swipe of a finger on an app, this is what Outdoor Link does. Outdoor Link builds smart cities connecting your park lights, splash pads, fountains, scoreboards, bathroom door locks, or really anything powered by electricity into a simple app on your phone, tablet, or desktop that can be controlled at any location 24/7, 365 days a year. If you want to learn more about Outdoor Link, tune in to the Smart Park Forward Show with Dave Ramirez on the second and fourth Mondays on the DPRS network. We're going to see a little short promo about Outdoor Link and something near and dear to my heart, JDP Services Management Consulting. So I promise we'll be right back, but Jovi, take us through those promos.
JDP Services Management Consulting, supporting parks and recreation and the essential service they provide. Communities benefit greatly from having dedicated advocates who champion the value of play in open spaces. Such advocacy ensures that recreational areas are prioritized and managed in ways that enhance the overall quality of life for everyone. We are dedicated to fortifying public park and recreation agencies and other related organizations by taking a practical, engaged approach to consulting and training, addressing immediate needs while equipping clients with lasting insight and tools to strengthen their organizations for long-term success. JDP Services, Management Consulting, meeting needs and exceeding expectations.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, we are back. As you know, we usually do a section where we talk about these great programs that are happening around the world at various military bases. We pull those off our Facebook feed tied to the Armed Forces Recreation Network, which is part of NRPA's network system. And there's a great Facebook page, almost 1,000 members as a part of it. We certainly encourage all of you to participate in that. And we also have a LinkedIn group for Armed Forces Recreation. Again, all part of NRPA's network system, the Armed Forces Recreation Network. So if you're not a part of it and you're in the biz anyway, whether you're a business that supports, you're in parks and recreation in general, you can belong to those social media pages. If you'd like, you just need to ask. So, Jovi, why don't you pull up a slide deck? We're going to talk about a couple today that scrolled through in the past week. So this first one is from FMWR department at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and they had their diamond run. Really kind of cool. They had a ton of people that were participating in this thing, and everybody's got their own run system. They've got their own names. I mean, some of them we recognize, certain holidays and certain types of runs. This one was a little new and different, something near and dear to the folks at Fort Sill. But they had a lot of cool pictures online. And again, I love the fact that I am a part of that Facebook group because it just comes up on my feed, and I get to see all of these cool programs that are happening around the world. So again, I encourage you to join that Facebook group called Armed Forces Recreation Network. Here's another one. This one is really unique, and I've been meaning to reach out to Randy at Fort Knox or somebody at Fort Knox to say, what is the origin of this? But they posted this past weekend, a garden party, and they're all in period costumes from there. And again, this is from the FMWR folks at Fort Knox, who just happened to be a gold medal finalist this year. They'll find out in Philly if they are going to win it. They've already won it once back in 2013. I think it was a year after we won it at Great Lakes. So yeah, great program there, and really curious. This has got to be the most creative programming I've seen to date. And I am dying to find out more about the origin of this event. But I thought it was pretty cool. Want to share it with all of you. Okay, and then we had some VIP visits at Naval Base San Diego. I guess in honor of World Cup, the San Diego Football Club came to break bread with the sailors at Naval Base San Diego. So that's always pretty cool. And I know the sailors love seeing folks come in there, and literally, I've been a part of some of these where um, we get athletes that come in and break bread with sailors and been at the table and hear the conversations going back and forth. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about one with our guest today that we did at Great Lakes. But yeah, this is pretty cool stuff, and love seeing this. And again, just a sampling of some of the really cool stuff happening from bases around the world off our Facebook post, and then certainly we get some stuff off LinkedIn as well. Armed Forces Recreation Network. Okay, YouTube, told you I was going to talk about it. We need subscribers. We actually are now well over 700. We are trying to get to 1,000. We would love to be able to do more live stuff on YouTube, but we have to check a few boxes, and one of them is getting our subscribers. So go to Daily Parks and Rec Media. Matter of fact, came up really easy search. I did it last night, and they come up very quickly on a search. And you go in, subscribe to it. It's not a big deal. There's not a huge commitment. and that will help us. And then you can see down in the lower left, front line on the front line certainly has its own playlist, and we've got quite a few episodes loaded up there, plus our new promo we did too. So, anyways, cool stuff. There's my shameless plug for YouTube. And then July, Parks and Rec month, though, I want to mention we are doing a little bit of a fundraiser through NRPA. We're always looking for support, supports our advocacy, supports many of the initiatives, and specifically the grant program, which gives out hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably millions in total, money that goes out or we administer through NRPA, that goes out to agencies to support efforts and making sure that everyone has a quality park out there. That QR code, keep it up on screen is probably the best way to do it. Us as the board of directors, I have a personal page, but the bottom line is our money's all going to the same place. So, giving is, if you're moved to give, we encourage you to do that. The QR code goes to my page. We've got a little competition in the board of directors. So I would I would appreciate the support to my page, please. But anyways, giving really is a good thing, and I know it's going to go to great use, from a leadership position with NRPA. All right. I think, yeah, let's take that down, and we'll bring another slide back up later. Thanks, Jovi. All right, let's bring on our guest here. This guy, Steve Gallagher, Superintendent of Recreation of City of Florence, Arizona. Although he's been in public parks and recreation for 5+ years now, he is a 22-year veteran of MWR. He was an MWR professional and worked at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, Naval Station Great Lakes for a big chunk of time, where we got a chance to be on the same team, and then Naval Construction Battalion Gulfport before he went off and did his kind of transferred into public parks and recreation, which is going our conversation because he's truly crossed over, and that doesn't happen all the time. But Steve, welcome to On the Frontline.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me, and look forward to this discussion today.
Yeah, great. Before we get into it, what do you think? What do you think about the World Cup? What are your thoughts? I know you're a sports guy.
Yeah, we did a little office pool here just for fun. You can't do anything, with bananas, but I won the pool, but I did not get the final game with Argentina winning. I had them beating France. So out of the million ESPN brackets, I finished like in the 87,000 bracket with my one bracket I had. So went chalk pretty much was the way to go with your world rankings, which is typical for that sport. Very hard to be an underdog to win in that sport, but probably watched more soccer than I've ever watched in many years.
It was just cool. It was cool to hear the stories. If you watch kind of social media, how people kind of embraced the food, the culture of the United States. I think at least the stories I saw, it was like they loved it. I think there's some bad press about the United States, and they came here and they enjoyed it. They loved the people,
Yes.
they loved the culture, they loved everything about it. So if anything, it was good PR for the United States for those visitors that came in here, and hopefully help bring our country together again too. We're a little divided, as we know, and I'm not a political show, but it was good to see the USA rally and people get behind the team, even though they got knocked out there in the round of 16. But oh well, it was fun,
Yeah.
and you got to love the economic impact. So Steve, I want to get into those details about going from military rec to public parks and recreation, but tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to the town of Florence in Arizona.
Absolutely, John. Thanks again. I think the process when you're in your career this long now, you can look and reflect a little differently than just starting, going to college in North Dakota. in the internship process, they talk about applying and you're going to get letter back, you're going to get rejected and stuff. Now it's through email. But when you think about what you can do, the career that I picked from recreation, they really had a good template and a format to say, 1 to 3 years in a rec position or a program manager position, 3 to 5, maybe some more supervisory, 5 to 7 facilities. And then you start getting into superintendent or directorship, maybe by 10 to 15 or 15 to 20 years even. So definitely in college, use that as a coaching path. But then with getting into military rec, one of the things that I didn't realize at the time, there was other recreation students that were getting in through internship programs, and they were doing like 2-year internship programs, and then they get like elevated right to a GS-12 or something right away. So
yeah, the Army had a program. It was a career development program, and they started at GS-7 or equivalent, GS-9, and then ended up in 11. But you had to theoretically kind of go where they told you, or you get bounced from the program. But yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I kind of missed that. But to get in at Whiteman Air Force Base and have a manager that says, hey, I'm retiring in 5 years, how can I get you here? Now, whether or not that happens or not, those are still things that there's a lot of different life things that come up. We had a new deputy director that came in, and he wanted their guy to come in and be the next manager. There was a lot of those like kind of horse trading type things done, or where people knew guys. And I think maybe you could know too, because you started around the late 80s, early 90s, and it was kind of like right at the time of civilianization of morale, welfare, recreation. And I felt like in the early 2000s, like we were still in this infancy stage of trying to feel out what we were going to be as a unit or as a recreation leader as part of the industry. And so like I saw that as a chance and opportunity of being a part of a team and being part of something very special within that industry. And that was when I transitioned to Great Lakes and really learned that under your leadership with the team that you put together there. And you brought us into the NRPA, which was already out there for several years, since the 60s, I guess, 60 years now we're in plus.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I just never really decided that in college or learned that municipal part where I felt strong enough to just go find some town or some city somewhere to go into. And so I always then said, okay, I'm in this career. You can stay in it for 20 plus years, get a good retirement. And so let's try to find something that's similar in that process for the military rec system. And it worked out. I had the opportunity with being at Great Lakes. It was where my hometown was at too. I'm from the Chicago area as well, from the suburbs there. So you had that chance in life to make a choice to be like, I want to work where my family's at. Okay, let's try this base. And then it's like, if there's a chance to advance, whether it's going overseas or going anywhere in the CON-US, then you can have a little bit more choice to have that freedom to say what's next and what's potential out there. And a matter of fact, during my time at Great Lakes, Bob always told me as my fitness director, he wasn't retiring. As a matter of fact, he just did like a year ago. He stayed like 20 years plus since I started there, right? So you knew that you had to try to continue to improve on your skills and then make some contacts, make some references, and then possibly know that that move might come. I went out to Portsmouth. I was in San Angelo for an interview, tried going down to Camp Lejeune, and then finally Gulfport, Mississippi came calling, which in its timing was the best timing for what I got for those 7 to 8 years at Great Lakes, and put me in the best shoe and the best position. And I had a good, successful career at Gulfport even. So making those connections and understanding in the military system from the local base to your regional and then to the Department of War offices at the Pentagon, like it was a beautiful system that was able to train employees from the ground up. I really loved military rec for sure.
So let me refresh my memory. We hired you from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, and you were a recreation specialist.
Yeah, the recreation specialist there was like a recreation coordinator in today's jobs, where you did your trips, your frontline program, customer service. We did outdoor adventure activities, downhill skiing, whitewater rafting, canoeing, bike riding, whatever was outdoorsy in the state of Missouri, and other travel stuff that helped those airmen. And then, but I also had aquatics experience. And at Great Lakes had the 2 pools, 80H old pool, and then the 440 pool, and then you had the lakefront. And so I took my lifeguard experience, about 4 years, and transitioned it into a pool manager, aquatics there at Great Lakes. And then I knew a lot about sports, and that just kind of filtered into it as a two-hatted position.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that opportunity, whether it's municipal or military, to have two hats. But I found a way to do it and made it very successful to do it, because it's not easy to try to run two entities at once, but we made it work.
Well, you were certainly with Bob there leading, Bob Marfachuk, we're talking about, reference, long-term MWR employee at Great Lakes. Was great, was the perfect sports and fitness director. But between you and him, you guys were a good 1-2 punch. You always had a fitness director there as well. I'm not discounting anybody that was in
Yeah.
that position, but you did a lot of back of house stuff, and you were kind of co-located at 440 with Bob. So it was the Bob and Steve show for many years.
Yeah,
But
beautiful mentor.
all good stuff. Yeah, no doubt. He's a natural coach, counsel, mentor type guy. I mean, that's Bob. That explains, and anybody that worked with him for any period of time and got to know him understood exactly where he was going. So yeah, he's a good one. Hopefully he's listening. I told him we were going to be on today. So
Yeah, I'll write him. I told him I was cheering for the Cubs last night, but he told me about the Tigers winning, so he's got one up. We
oh
chat
yeah,
quite
yeah.
a bit, so.
He's a Motown Detroit guy. So yeah, we digress talking
Yeah.
about that. So no, one thing I do, and we're going to talk more about the public to military rec, or military rec to public parks, but I don't know if it was before you got there or during the time you were there, but we kind of negotiated that partnership because there was an emphasis to open up the outdoor pool, which used to be by Constitution Field.
Mm.
And the bottom line is, we showed through, customer engagement and everything else. One, the single sailors didn't want to hang out. The families who came all the way from over in housing, right next to Lake Bluff, matter of fact,
Yeah.
all drove in. They were the only ones really using that outdoor pool. That the outdoor pool to be fixed was a lot of money to do that. And it was determined that we were better off partnering through a subsidized pass system with Lake Bluff and their pool, which is closest to our family housing, military housing
Yeah.
community, who were the main users of that, versus spending millions and millions of dollars trying to upgrade and get that pool up to date. So it was really kind of mothball, but that was an interesting program. I don't think as well used as it should have been. But it was a great partnership at the time to be able to do that, and not waste money on something that probably wasn't going to be the focal point for the sailors who literally live right across the street from that outdoor pool. They didn't want anything to do with it. That's what the data told us.
Right, and we did the same thing in my first municipality, Victoria, that they shut their pool down maybe around 2015, and they had that pass system with the local YMCA. And then we just maintained the splash pads, and nobody else had to do that. So it works
Yeah.
both sides of the house, whether you're military rec or municipal. You're going to find those private-public partnerships that can have a deal for everybody to help cost share and make the best of business practices, because it's getting more expensive these days to just go and run out there at Next Gen Center or whatever you need for an aquatic
Yeah.
center, for
Well,
sure.
yeah, and duplicate efforts, and that doesn't win for anybody. And ultimately, whether it's a non-for-profit like a YMCA and a public parks and recreation, you're all serving the same community. So resources are important to all organizations, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, so Great Lakes. What'd you learn from Great Lakes? What were your takeaways? You spent a big chunk of time with us, and I'm not looking for you to say all good things. I mean, there might be some
Sure.
bad things you learned that shaped your career future wise. But what'd you learn from Great Lakes that was kind of an anchor for you to move forward?
Sure. I definitely love the leadership development that we built. And like you said, it did take time when I got there. We talk about that when we get together at conferences with some of the others, because we've all split out. Like if you think about how many of the leaders that started out at some position that are at near superintendent or directorship, it's massive, at least 8 that I can count on the hand. And so that process from 2006 to 2014 that I was there, and those individuals that took advantage of the leadership development, going through program analysis, we were like one of the leaders of that, I believe, through positions we got with Great Lakes, trying to take the lead on that. I want to say Dan Canzella with his position was like one of the first in the industry for that, for Department of Defense. So like to really learn those behind the scenes skills and program analysis, and then put practices in place. Those are a lot of keys that I learned during my time. How to observe, we talked about some of the bigger events that we did, like your 4th of July event or other. We did the Fort to Base run there, which was like that 6K or 10K run between the old Army base in Fort Sheridan up to Great Lakes. And everybody was invited to meetings. So whether you had a small part to just order portalets or fencing, or you were a big part because you got the entertainment, or whatever the process was, you can have 30 people in the room, and you're all at the press briefing, basically, or you're all in the briefing behind the scenes, from security to fire, or whatever the case is. So to include us in those meetings and have that full picture, to be able to sit back as a younger individual trying to learn management or what that can lead to team building, that was a perfect process that was developed, that I seen throughout, even going to South, maybe reaching Southeast later in the Gulfport, that you can attribute and point to the things that were done at Great Lakes that were, the best ideas and the best practices that were taken and spread out through those regions. And so then we were able to use those skills in other regions as we went.
Yeah, no, we were part of a lot of different things and initiatives. Obviously give a lot of credit to Jerry Heeb and his leadership. I was finally, after being a rec director for many, many years, got a chance to kind of take over as he fleeted up into the region to be the MWR director. But, from winning the gold medal, and the first ever to win the gold medal in 2012, to all of the International Festival and Events Association awards we got for our 4th of July, to just having to do a lot of team. It was something I mimicked, and I certainly wanted to make it a part of my realm when I took that MWR director role, to bring people in and hopefully communicate the big picture, because there's no secrets. And sometimes you just need to understand what the bigger picture is, and what we're facing with the leadership and the CO, and the many demands that those COs have on installation management. So, hey, we brought up this slide, and I wanted you to comment on some of these things. For those on Spotify, you're not able to see it, but we've got a couple pictures here. But Steve, does this bring back some memories?
Yeah, for sure does. In the top one, we had Coach Pat Fitzgerald, was with Northwestern football at the time, and they came down at the end of their camp when they broke camp out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. They came down and they had broke bread with the sailors and did some training exercises as much as they could do. The NCAA changed rules, so the last year they couldn't do certain football scrimmages or playing because of safety and different things. But to get out there, even with the Chicago Bears as well, with the players, the rookies that were drafted, both them and they were able to go to the EOD guys, and they would go see the physical workouts that was needed to get into the military. And I remember Chief Dodd, like one of the strongest guys in the Navy, doing a weightlifting challenge and like just blow these football players out of the water with those challenges and stuff. And we had the 4th of July there. It was anywhere from a 1-day to the bigger 3-day shows. I think in 2012 was the bigger 3-day show with the carnival. And I had to do the cash ticket recording. So before and after the event, would get the ticket data and then collect the money and be counting it till like 2 in the morning, and then turn it into we'd be there like 3 in the morning in the cash cage, and doing all the services that we needed. And it was really cool to be a part of that. It's a lot harder municipal wise to do that with insurances, to get so many games and rides like that with Ferris wheels and stuff. It's a little bit harder to do that these days than what was back in the day. But so many good memories about that. And look at those fireworks right on top of the building right there. Like it's amazing how you're able to get all the safety protocol to be able to go and do that. And it was a beautiful show. We like over the 3-day event, like 50,000 people, like unbelievable, massive crowds.
Yeah, we were, what was it, 2012? We were voted through IFEA, which is the International Festival and Events Association. For our budget size, we were voted the best. We got their Grand Pinnacle Award, which is really the best festival for our budget size in the world, or at least those that put in for it. So that was pretty exciting. And we're going to talk fireworks in next week. Actually, I've got Win Kramer in from Melrose, who they were the company that did a majority of our fireworks, especially after you came. We had a little bit of a hiatus after 9/11, where we didn't do it for a few years, and then we brought it back, and we were just building it back up again when you came in 2008. And Melrose, I think, was our contractor pretty much for all those years after that. So it was, a lot of fun. And we're going to talk more. And we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, your move to public parks and recreation a little bit more. But we are going to take a quick break. So Jovi's going to take us away. I promise we will be back with Steve Gallagher right after these little promos.
Not every mission happens behind a desk. Some happen in the places where our freedom is defended. This is the Frontline, where service meets reality, readiness requires resilience, and impact is measured in people, not headlines. We talk with the men and women who support our military communities, the leaders, responders, and recreation professionals who create spaces where service members and their families can recharge, connect, and stay strong. From fitness and recreation to community programs that strengthen the total force at home and abroad, we share the stories, the challenges, and the purpose that keeps them going. Welcome to On the Frontline, the Military Rec Show, hosted by John Prue. Real people, real stories, real service. This is where it begins.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
All right, we are back with Steve Gallagher from the Town of Florence. And Steve, what made you decide when you were sitting at Gulfport, that was your third military recreation gig, and certainly had stepped up along the way. You had made a pretty good name in MWR worlds. What made you jump to Victory, Texas, and get into public parks and recreation? What was the decision point there?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure in the military rec how many people had to go through this decision, but there was huge impacts from COVID. And in July of 21 to November of 2021, the administration put out some requirements for employees to have to maintain employment. And there wasn't a lot of grace period, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity to sit and wait for what may or may not happen. And so I was pretty much needing to make a decision to start exploring other options if I chose not to take a medical procedure that was out there. And it was pretty much 100% mandate. There wasn't any exemptions to that. And I wasn't ready at that time, although it doesn't downplay any of the severity of what was needed. And I certainly know people that had impacts of their own medically from that. But just for my particular situation, I just decided that if I wanted to continue work in recreation, I would need to find something else. So I was pretty open with that with my leadership team, and they were understanding of that as well. And so I transitioned, and Victoria was one of those first places that was able to find through interviewing and had openings and stuff. And just the whole process of going through that, I'm sure for everybody, you could probably do a whole show on that with many different players about what the impacts of COVID were, because there was many people that I know that didn't want to get impacted that way, but had to. And we had a little bit more personal freedom, I guess, or at least where, we didn't have to feel like we were tied into housing or anything like that. The military was great. You can rent on the military basis. So we were renting and stuff. And so to be able to do some things, maybe a little different, impact what others might have had to go through with that decision. So definitely doesn't take away from that, because it was a hard decision for everybody during that process. This is hindsight now, of course, 4 years later, right?
Yeah.
So I got out to Victoria and just basically started kicking butt and taking names with the management team I had there. Great director, Jason Alfaro, and assistant city manager, Mike Atian, and our city manager, Jesus Garza. And the team out there was building a team. They all pretty much got there in 2019, and again was building something similar that I thought was Great Lakes. They had a great master plan put together. And so I was able to read into what I can get involved with. 900 acres of parks, 17 different total in total. They had a public golf course there, and we had 12 different playgrounds. So it was another dual-hatted position where I was both the parks maintenance supervisor as well as the rec programmer superintendent. But the recreation team was a smaller team. We had 3 rec coordinators. And most of our facilities was 100% outdoors. We did have a community center that we can use. It was managed differently through a different program manager, but a lot of it was going to be travel ball, softball, soccer, youth, baseball. We had college and high school sports that utilized that public-private sharing aspect of it with the college there, University of Houston, Victoria, and then you had your local Victoria ISDs that use the field. So a lot of unique things that I was able to get into for that time period. And there was some managerial changes that took place through natural just attrition and other things on whatever people wanted to do. And kind of came to an opening where it's like, okay, I used Victoria as a kind of stopgap. I really didn't have too many choices in the urgency of the time that was given during the impacts of COVID. I wasn't going to go sit in a campsite for 6 months in an RV. So I had to go somewhere. And so then I was able to sit back and start really looking and saying, what else would I want to do, or where do I want to go, or what kind of level position that I want to go into? And so it was about this time last year that we made the decision to start looking again. Got about 11 different states that I'd probably choose to live in. And so looked at a few different ones from Florida to Arizona and different, some in Texas as well. And this one in the town of Florence opened up, and did some research, and for portability for what my wife did with her work and stuff. She was pretty much 100% transferable. And so we said, let's do it. Really loved the Phoenix area. Went to my first NRPA conference in Phoenix in 2000 as an intern. And we went to the 2022 conference again and did a full circle life moment at that time. And there was just something that really drew me to Arizona over time. And here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you think is the biggest difference now that you're 5+ years into public parks and recreation, 2 different agencies, although you're still getting your feet wet at the town of Florence.
Yeah.
What is the biggest difference or differences between public parks and recreation and military recreation?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you're in the military rec, I want to say there was about 80 different Navy bases. And so if you get the regulations and your DOD instructions, and then you go down through all the different commands, if I wanted to be a fitness director at any of those Navy bases, whether it's in Poland or Signola or wherever it's at, and you're gonna run the same processes. If you're with a town, it's gonna vary so much on your facilities, one, or other budgetary constraints or other things that are taking place to those end users. And so those are some big differences there. Also, the leadership could be different. if I needed to run a basketball league on Great Lakes, I can call up 15 different barracks with 500 students in them and get 25 teams and run a good, successful 8-week league. Where in your different town that you're at, this town in Florence, we don't run an adult softball league. We got 3 softball fields. We can probably figure it out. But there's other suburbs and there's other processes of where they might go and travel and do other things differently. Where in Victoria, we had a softball league 4 nights a week with 4 fields running for both kickball and softball. So even from municipal to municipal, it'll be different, but also then from running different policy procedures through every military base, the continuity that was out there between military recreation was so consistent. You might have your own little niche on what you take care of because that's your population. Your retiree population might be different. Like at Great Lakes, I don't remember many retirees that we worked with. They were there, but in Gulfport, that was like 35% of our population, and they had a big voice in what we did through the retiree population and so forth. So definitely some differences there between the two. And like I mentioned also too, each base also had its difference in what they were connected to. Great Lakes, we were out in the middle of nowhere basically, even though for a time we had Millington and Crane, but we were just really ourselves, like a bigger San Diego or something like that. But if you're in Pensacola, you got Kings Bay, you got Whidbey Island all over that way with Kipsat up in the Northwest or whatever. So like, it also depends on where you're at with your bases and how you're able to get with your other fellow colleagues and coordinate the activities. Here in the state, we got a really strong state organization for Arizona Parks and Recs. Texas had a huge one. It's probably one of the biggest ones in the industry as well. You're so far away in Texas though, where for here, we're 60 miles from Tucson or from Phoenix. So we can get together with any of our partners easily. Texas, you're either going to Houston or Dallas or San Antonio area, and you were kind of just had 3 major markets, and that was like they can just self-sustain themselves in those recreation activities with your peer-to-peer learning and colleague training and stuff like that. So there's many differences in just municipal rec, let alone the military rec.
What about the leadership piece of it? Working for a chain of command in the military versus a civilian community related thing where it might ultimately feed up to a mayor and or a city manager versus a CO or admiral on the base. What are your thoughts about chain of command and the differences, pros, cons?
I enjoyed the chain of command level that we had. I probably, out of that 20 years, you probably had 11 different officers that were in charge of the basis and stuff, but your individual command leadership changed quite often as well, every 2 to 3 years. Here in the different towns, the mayors can be on board for 20 years and drive some of that. Your town council every 2 to 4 years is up for election, and so those are things that can also drive what you're trying to achieve with your council elections. Matter of fact, Arizona's voting for primary today, so get out and vote if you're in Arizona. But these are things that make decisions for you that you go to your town manager as basically your base CO, and then they're having the town council meetings and helping to guide some of the conversation and take advice. And so right now we have a great relationship with our town council and the things that we're doing on the recreation side. But if they want to provide an idea, you have to go through certain channels too. Like if a CO provides certain communication, sometimes they can get things done just by voicing it out there. But there's so much other politics in the civilian world that you got to go through procedural methods. You can't just have everybody on a chain of email with Freedom of Information Act and other private meeting type laws that you got to have, or Open Public Law Meeting Act, right? You got to follow those rules, which is way different than in the military government. You could probably just get a lot more things done by just having that conversation with a quick phone call with the CO. And next thing you know, we got a 3-star coming and we had all this overtime to clean something up or to paint the parking lot quickly because we wanted to be nice and neat. Here, we probably couldn't pull that much leverage that fast, right? So there's a few mechanical differences in that.
You're letting out all the trade secrets of military recreation, like captain or admiral. making sure that we're looking really good because of a VIP visitor, and now you're pulling sailors from everywhere to, paint the steps and,
Yeah,
you know, shine the brass and
yeah,
all
the
that
good
good
old
stuff.
memories, right?
Yeah, working parties, working
Working
parties.
party, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Hey, I was having a conversation with a few of my fellow board members at our last meeting when we were in DC. There, we were um, working at Capitol Hill and working some advocacy things on behalf of Parks and Recreation. Anyways, we were having a conversation, and I was talking to some people, and I had heard it was out there, but it seems like it's more frequent that a lot of these positions in terms of the Parks and Recreation director, or a lot more than I thought, are kind of almost appointed positions that when they have a change in the mayor, or they change up their, the councilmen who oversee the Parks and Recreation committee or whatever,
Mhm.
that, people can get pushed out quickly out of their position, and it has nothing to do with merit or their ability. It's really, I don't want you in this position, so we're going to go hire somebody else, and you're giving your notice and you're gone. And I was a little floored, and everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, that's how it is here. That's how it is here." Are you aware of that? Have you heard of that? Have you experienced that in your two positions?
Yeah, in both Texas and here in Arizona, we're at will. So pretty much you can be a great employee and doing a great thing, but if political pressure comes down or other things, that could be a sense of it. Hopefully, you're having great dialogue and other discussion to kind of avoid that. But I have heard of that. Generally, the appointed ones that I know of would be more like depending if you're in a certain tax district, like Illinois Park and Recreation, you'd probably be appointed from your board compared to where most municipalities, the only thing the council or the mayor can appoint would be like the town manager, your legal, and your CFOs. So, so then the town manager is the one that's responsible for hiring that community services director or park director. But at the same time, I suppose that could there be kind of some at will within that or some direction that if the town manager is feeling some pressure to not have success, I bet that's the case for sure. It's
So are
yeah,
you an at-will
we are
employee?
at will. Yep, I am.
So
Yep.
so theoretically, they could say, "Hey, we don't want to fund this position," and you're gone with not a whole lot of appeal rights or anything. You're gone. You're giving your notice and you go. Or are you on a contract
No,
itself?
it's at will. It's at will. So, uh, like you said, I mean, if for some reason if something happens and it doesn't meet any legal requirement per se, and they just decide that they want to go in a different direction, uh, I'm sure that that's something that they can have that conversation and kind of lead to that process. And I guess in our careers, though, overall, though, if we coach or mentor employees, that you would hope with proper evaluation, and if you saw someone going and downtrending towards certain rewards, you'd want to have that conversation with them and say, hey, there's two rewards out here. You got this
Yeah,
reward or that reward. So which way are you going to go? And then you can kind of help coach and see how to make the positive improvements to the right reward and stuff. But just even
yeah,
in regular work though, talking with employees, like a lot of employees kind of get stuck because if you go into a municipality, or probably even same thing with MWR, if you go and say, okay, I'm going to start at this position and in 10 years I'm going to be that position. Well, what happens in 10 years when that position isn't open? And my example will be with Bob Marfacek. He said he wasn't retiring, he didn't do it for another 20 years. So I had to be open and be able to know what my skills were, to be able to go look at other positions and kind of be, I wouldn't say transient, but be open to the concept that if you're going
yeah.
to have success, you might have to move somewhere.
Honestly, I don't think that's much different. I mean, we
Mhm.
have our own system. We're one larger organization under the Department of War now,
Yeah.
and or the Department of Navy within that realm, which we all work. To move up, you don't necessarily have to stay in the same location, but you potentially could move on. No, the connections of different cities and communities aren't necessarily the same. They don't fall under an umbrella, but to move up, in a parks and recreation world doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay in the same organization. That you may need to move to the city
Yeah.
down the road, or downstate, or upstate, or 3 states over. So I think that's, to me, that seems common.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great. I'm the oddball that came as an intern and stayed 34 years. 16 weeks turned into 34 years for me because I had the right opportunities to move up. But I got lucky. Yeah, I think I worked hard. I put myself in a position, but I got lucky. Right time, right place. There's no way I would have stayed
Yeah.
34 years at Great Lakes in at one position. So
And I
yeah,
think with what you're saying to that question too, John, is that military rec, you get to know everybody in the good circle of life, and we're all supported with our directors. Municipal rec, there's a lot of times that there's stigmas. Oh, you're from Chicago, you don't know what this is, or you're from this culture, that culture, from this state, or from that, and it's hard
population
sometimes.
size. Yeah.
Population size, or just even like maybe that group of town or city doesn't want to go that far outside their social norms or whatever. So there's a little bit that goes on too, that when you're job hunting or trying to put some feelers out there, do a lot of research and really kind of feel what are the true job tasks, how many hats are you truly wearing, what is their culture and socioeconomical norms that would be a good fit. How close you might live to the community as well, because there's some people that if you live outside the county or the borders that you're trying to apply for, they have rules. They want you inside those borders to make a living too. And so you want to know how much, I guess, rope they're going to put around that as far as making sure that you live to a certain norm or social construct within your work too.
Yeah. We've got about 5-6 minutes left. I want to talk about a couple things. Well, first of all, what would be your best advice if somebody was in the MWR world and they want to go to public parks and recreation? One piece of advice. I know you could give them 100, but give me one piece of advice for that person. MWR to public parks and recreation.
Definitely, the skills that you have are going to be very transferable. So just make sure that you do your research, read the job description, understand what you're signing up for, and it's really one for one. You can go to college campus recreation if you wanted, for that matter, from MWR, or a YMCA or a Boys and Girls Club too. So there are so many other things that are transferable, that the skills you have are enough to work in a municipal recreation.
Yep. Okay. Vice versa. Your public parks and recreation wanting to go to MWR, what's one piece of advice you would give us?
I think it's a reverse the same way, because the skills that my rec coordinators, I got 4 team members that I can advise to go to MWR right now and say, this is why you should do it. And, I'd probably sway them to the Southeast because I'm biased and I think that we're the best. But definitely they have a chance to travel. Yeah. But I mean, you have a chance to travel if you want to go to Asia, you want to go over to Europe and stuff, and just try and stuff. And there is a good team camaraderie with naval personnel, or airmen, Marines, whatever the branch of service that you're in and stuff. I love the camaraderie about that, and about that unity that we had during my 20 years there. And so I would definitely just promote that for anybody in the municipal side on why they should go into the military.
Yeah. I'd add one more piece of advice for those in public parks trying to go to MWR, and I agree 100%. At least at that mid-level or manager stage, I think it's a very easy transition piece. Do your homework. Armed Forces Recreation, you don't need to be an expert, but you need to have a baseline of what that's all about. Look online, understand the mission of the base that you're applying for, what it does, what your MWR is. Too many people I sat in on the other side of interviews, and they had a pretty good resume coming from public parks and recreation. When you ask them the question, what do you know about MWR, which was pretty standard question that we ask everybody, they couldn't answer the question, or they just stumbled around it. And I'm like, everything is online. You could have been reading this. That it's not what we were looking for, but basically saying I don't know anything about it is a bad answer.
It happens in municipal rec too, John. They don't research the town. They're just happy they got the call and they don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, that's interviewing one-on-one, I guess. So, anyways, but thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully, for those that maybe are considering a career change, either way, going one way or the other, maybe they got something out of that. You're certainly a point of contact and reference for that. So, tell me a crazy moment in your professional recreation profession career. It doesn't have to be military. It could be your public parks
Mhm.
craziest moment that you can share on a
Yeah,
podcast that will live forever on YouTube and Spotify.
right. Well, the small world that we're in here in the town of Florence, one of my rec coordinators, Kyle Wright, he was actually in the Navy and he was at Great Lakes at the same time I was in that time period between 2010 and 14, and he was trying to become a
Wow.
pre-bud. And so I tease him about probably kicking him out of the pool every once in a while, being in the
Yeah.
pre-bud class and not doing recreational swimming, but military training. And so we have this vision of him wearing that white T-shirt with his name across the top of it, running around base and running in our 5Ks. They were always in each 5K and stuff. So he remembers doing those things and stuff. But like to have that, like you probably pass each other in the hallway moment, but you don't realize it because it's that 11 years later, and we wouldn't have known each other from a door handle at the time. But to have those connections everywhere, there's somebody that's in the military somewhere, and so you have that easy connection of, hey, I was at these bases. Oh, most of them went through Great Lakes for boot camp, so that's a very easy conversation starter with that. So I think that's kind of just been a cool part of this narrative and this story is that there is so many people and individuals that had either some military service, retired full retirement or partial just service, and you just run into them every day, whether you're at the store or you're here in town and whatnot. And so it's good to have those stories and build camaraderie as a starting point, using that as a entryway conversation.
You should ask your colleague that did he ever get thrown out of one of the gyms or fitness center for wearing street shoes? Because that was Bob Marfichuk's motto. He was
Yeah, he probably did.
He was on it and
Yep.
send them back to their barracks. Go get your gym shoes. Yeah.
Right.
But for good reason. It was a muddy mess in Great Lakes during 3 or 4 months out of the year for sure.
Yes.
So, all right, Steve. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure catching up. I know we're going to stay in contact. Hopefully, we'll see you out in Philly for NRPA.
Yes, we're signed up for that.
We give folks a little token of appreciation for being on the show. So I'll have something special for you. We'll have to connect and have a beer as well at that point. So that's it for today on the front line. Thanks again to Steve Gallagher and his amazing story and journey in this profession and being able to cross over from MWR, military recreation, and public parks and recreation. That was outstanding. So we'll be back next week, same time, same place, for another great episode. So on behalf of all of us at DPRS Media and On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show, I'm John Prue, and we are out here.
This episode is brought to you by STSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. STSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom-branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.